It's the most
wonderful time
of the year. Hey Sharilyn, what are we doing today?
Hey Tabatha, today we're listing out all our top 10 fall recommendations.
Cheers.
Books.
Yes,
Our top 10 top 10 fall reading recommendations.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So you have some organization, right?
As per usual. Yes, I sure do. I have 10 books, 5 categories, 2 books per category.
I have a pile.
And without further ado,
I also have 10 books, but they're just not in category. I didn't know we were doing in categories.
This is how my brain works. I don't know what to tell you.
And your brain is beautiful. So would you like to share your first category?
I would love to share my first category. All right, so we all know fall, back to school, everyone's feeling all academic and shit. So a couple of my first 2 recommendations are in fact from the classics category of the literary world. However, these 2 both also have spooky underpinnings. One of them more so than the other. I think it actually counts as horror. But this first one is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. If you don't know anything about this story, this is following the woman who is the second wife of Mr. Maxim de Winter, who is a charming English gentleman, and they meet on a French vacation. He whisks her away to his grand estate, which is very much haunted by the idea of his former wife, Rebecca. So
Very gothic,
very beautiful, very moody. Definitely recommend checking it out. It's beautiful.
and watching the Alfred Hitchcock movie.
There's an Alfred Hitchcock film. There's also a Netflix adaptation.
And watching the Alfred Hitchcock movie.
The Alfred Hitchcock one is the most faithful movie adaptation I've ever seen in my life. Like literally word for word. Perfect.
Wait, can I interject one?
Sure.
Hold on.
Yes!
Psycho. Also Alfred Hitchcock movie. I haven't watched it yet though. Have you watched it?
No, actually.
You need to read this and then we can buddy watch it.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Fall plans.
Psycho also is an Alfred Hitchcock movie. Bates Hotel. Very cool.
Indeed.
I'll go into details
Yeah.
when we get to me.
Don't worry about it. And then my next classic recommendation is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Also very spooky. A man essentially makes a deal with the devil where he has a painting done of him, and any bad the man does is reflected in the painting, whereas he essentially gets to live ageless and perfect for the rest of his life. However, that takes a turn. Of course it would. Why wouldn't it? Set in, I think is it Victorian England? Very much the seedy underside of London and things.
Yeah, very moody.
Very moody.
As well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's good discussions of obsession and then also, I guess, like temptation to an extent as well. Mm-hmm. And then like, if you can get away with things, will you? If you can get away with things and not have any signs of it,
yeah.
would you
could have
do
no
it?
repercussions, what would you do? Yes, a very interesting look at
and art. There's also really good conversations about art in there as well, and the meaning of art and the purpose of art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to say also good discussions on the core of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So, on that note, what you got for us?
Okay, so we'll go back to Psycho really quick. So we've got a woman who has gone missing. We've got investigators. We've got a mother, an overbearing mother. We've got really good dialogue as well. And very much a glimpse into dark side of humanity. It's also got like really blunt prose, which is kind of my favorite prose style, where it's that sharp, very crisp, punchy prose. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so I loved this way more than I thought I was going to. I haven't read a whole lot of like classic horror, but this definitely is classic, definitely is horror. And yeah, I need you to read this so we can watch the movie, because that sounds like a grand old time.
I'm here for it.
I do have another classic here, so let's stick with your little classic theme that you have going on here. And I have Carmilla. So this is a vampire story that inspired Dracula. It is very gothic. Every single page has just such luscious, beautiful prose. So while I mostly like that blunt, that punchy prose, this has like such a good example to me, in my personal opinion. It has a good description. It has a good example of the like lush prose. It has the lush kind of prose that I like, where it's still not like overly descriptive. You can't be overly descriptive in my experience, but you know, I'm sure there are books that prove me wrong. You can't be too overly descriptive in this short of a book and have like still the characters and the plot that we have.
Gotcha.
And it's so intriguing. There's also definitely like lesbian elements. Gosh, every single page has just beautiful sentences. Definitely, I don't know if I already said the gothic part, but definitely gothic. We've got a woman that comes into town and she has some like suspicious behaviors. And I already told you it's a vampire book, so you already know. Like, you already know you kind of get the vibe.
Where we're going.
Yeah. All right, so what's your next category you've got for us?
Glad you asked. So, kind of weaving off the classics and into one of our favorite fall moods, which is the dark academia. We have The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This book changed my life. I hadn't read a book with this style of prose and this style of storytelling before I'd read it. Crazy. But it's very literary, but it has that dark academia setting. It does have a good bit of mystery, does have this dip into the metaphysical. And it does leave the reader with some questions, and you have some things to just kind of figure out for yourself as you go through and try to decipher what is happening in this story. And it's absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. I love it.
On the mystery side, what's really interesting about this one is she actually tells you right away what happens. And you're finding out why that happened, how that happened. And I've really found that to be really interesting, actually.
Yes.
It's something that happens a lot we've been reading some frame narrative stories, and that happens a lot where you know where we're going.
Yeah.
But you're trying to figure out how we get there. And what's really cool about that is it takes the bite out of it a little bit. So instead of focusing on like predictions and like, I predict that it's going to go here, you know where it's going. Yeah. And so you have that
unweaving kind of how we got there. Yeah, that's just something that's been sticking in my mind as kind of like from a writer's perspective, is like, if your reader already knew where this ended, would it still be worth reading? Yeah. And then you get to build out, this is a tangent, but then you build out the story more intentionally maybe than you otherwise would have, and it gives the reader a much fuller experience. Yeah. We've also had a recent talk about like spoilers and whether or not they matter. But in this case, you're given the spoiler. You know who dies. You don't know necessarily the exact circumstances, but you know who dies. You know someone's dead. And so it's going back and going through that entire lead up to that moment it's such a good journey. And talking about intentionality, this is another thing. My brain has just been picking up on prose. I promise eventually it hopefully will leave my brain and hopefully I'll be able to focus on anything else. But this is another author that she takes years to work on her books. Yeah. Because she goes word by word and makes sure that they matter. So like in any sentence, you can't cut out a word. It is crisp. It's still lush. So this is like another really good example to me, in my personal opinion, of like lush prose style where every word still matters. It's beautiful. It's got those extra layers, but every word counts and you're not wasting page length on like things that don't matter. Sorry to tangent on that, but it's just so beautifully crafted. It is very lovely. So that brings us into another dark academia read, which has a sticker on the front of it here that I haven't gotten rid of yet. I've noticed that with some of your books. You sometimes just have the sticker. I just don't think about it, especially since a lot of mine are trophy books, and so I don't like do anything with them once I bring them home. Like this one. This one happens to be the best fantasy novel Stephen King has read in years, from whenever he put this blurb on here. And this is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, and it's gorgeous. So, dark academia setting. We're at Yale in contemporary times, and we're following secret societies that very much dip into the occult and the dark side of the realm. And it's so good. I love the mystery. I love our characters. I love the journey our main character goes on and everything she experiences along the way. It's such a good mysterious story, and it continues to deliver as you read. So you have questions, and you're not left wanting throughout the story. Like, you get lots of delicious pieces along the way.
Very good atmosphere, very good world.
Lovely atmosphere. And this one, it is technically book 1 in a series, and there is a book 2 that exists, and we're waiting for book 3 to find out if book 2 is worth reading. So the main thing is, this book you can read, and you can read it.
Yep. I personally do not recommend book 2.
Which is a bummer.
And it definitely tainted this one for me. Just because of book 2. But this
one though is beautiful.
Yeah. I remember reading this and loving it, but now I just like think about book 2 when I see it.
Darn.
So it's got like that little bit of a sour taste, you know?
Aww.
It's unfortunate. But book 1, read it as a standalone.
This is gorgeous. Great. Yeah. It leaves you with some questions at the end, but
just don't worry about those questions.
If you can let it lie, then let it lie. And just accept this book the way it is.
I wish I could tell you I had any dark academia over here. I do not. I do have, yours are both in schools.
They are, yeah. The academia. That's how that works.
This has a school, sure. Somewhere. It has a child.
It has a house. That's a building.
It has a house. It's got a building.
It happens in a building.
Yes. Incidents around the house. So this is by the same author who did Bird Box.
Oh,
if you've watched the show or if you've read the book, which I highly recommend because very sensory details, that's not important to this one. This feels like, the best way I can describe this is Coraline, but for adults. So we've got a child as the narrator, but it is definitely horror. Okay, we've got a child as a narrator.
It is creepy when the child's the narrator.
And I do recommend the audiobook because the narrator is the narrator is 18 years old, and she does such a good child voice, or she was at least 18 when she did this book. And she had such a good child voice that you can really see. Yeah.
It's creepy.
It's real creepy. Ugh. And then she has a child's perspective, but you can see it's a really interesting example of the character telling you something, but you can see through it. So like she's like, okay, like everything is fine. This is hunky dory. This is happy moment, and you're like, this is not okay. This is not okay. Back away from that. Nope, you get away from there. Nope, that's scary. Let's go. Don't go in there. Like things like that. So you can really see past what the narrator is telling you, and that's a really interesting skill. I think that takes a lot of skill to be able to do that. Yeah. We've got other mommy. So we've got mommy and we've got other mommy.
Oh no.
See why it kind of can relate to Coraline.
I'm scared.
And there's a haunting of sorts. So
you don't say.
Yeah, it's excellent. It is spooky. It is creepy. Yes, I highly recommend doing the audiobook for this one, or immersion reading it. Maybe immersion reading it with the audiobook and like a flashlight in the book, because it's really got those good elements. And you can see here kind of it's not that dense, like you've got a lot of space, so it's way shorter than it looks.
Oh, nice.
And a lot of it is conversational. I think mommy is crying. Yes, she's crying. That was other mommy.
That's so creepy.
It's so delightfully creepy. If you want something nice and deliciously creepy, go with that one. I'm gonna segue, I guess, since we're talking about creepy. No.
Pick a book.
I know.
Pick a book.
We'll go with this one.
Creepy. You're already there.
So since we're on the topic of creepy, let's go with Uzumaki by Junji Ito. If you haven't read any Junji Ito, this is my favorite one. There are a few that are really good for fall. Obviously, he's a very talented artist and author. And this is so creepy as well. We've got a town that has spirals. And the spirals, you start to notice, are like a little bit creepy. And you start to notice the spirals. People start becoming obsessed with spirals. Spirals start taking over. And then suddenly, you are noticing spirals everywhere. And you're getting creeped out by all of the spirals. And this has some amazingly horrific art. Even on the end papers. This is phenomenal. It has great characters. It has a great mystery element. So so delightfully creepy. Love it.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. So on the topic of dark academia, like I said, I have some categories. My next two happen to not be creepy and are back in the realm of dark academia, except these are mystery / thriller. So we have The Likeness by Tana French, which is set in, it's in an academic adjacent setting. A girl turns up dead, and we're in the unique situation where we have a detective who looks just like the girl, and so she goes undercover as the dead girl to see if she can find out who killed the girl and why. And so it's a group of students who live together in a house, and we get to watch her take on someone else's life and identity and try to figure out what happened to her, and at the same time try not to get found out by these people that she's living with. So this is one of my favorite books and has been for years. It's gorgeous. It is a detective, but it's less of that police procedural style of story because you're actually like immersed in essentially the victim's life. So it's really cool to see it done that way. And well written. It's been a while since I've read it.
It's also the second book in a series. However,
I keep forgetting that.
yeah.
I keep forgetting it's the second one.
However. Okay, she's not picking up what I'm putting down. However, you can start with it. You don't need to read the first one to read this.
Yes. Yeah, the series that it's a part of, they're like interconnected standalones essentially, where the character you're following is someone who was in the previous book, but it wasn't the main character, wasn't their story, so you can kind of pick up wherever, and you won't really be lost. So that's why I always forget this isn't the first book in the series, because that's how the series goes. Gotcha. It was like, which? Because I had you read it first. Yes. So my other dark academia adjacent and thriller murder mystery is The It Girl by Ruth Ware. This one we're following two separate timelines, the past and the present. And in the past timeline, naturally, someone was murdered. In the present timeline, it's a bit of an anniversary of the original events, and so we're revisiting the scene, and our narrator is reliving what happened in that original timeline and what led up to that murder and how did we get here, and kind of, just facing again this past that she's kind of been distancing herself from, and moving on with life from there. So it's really good. Of course, I love Ruth Ware and all of her thrillers. She's one of my favorites. She gets me every time with all of her twists and turns. So this one, the past timeline is set in academia. They are at Oxford, and so you get that rich school setting. And
Sweet.
that's all I got. That's all she wrote.
Yep.
So that's my next recommendation. Tabatha, what you got?
I don't have a segue. We're just one of your favorite authors. Okay. One of your favorite authors is Ruth Ware. One of my favorite authors is Stephen King. So I have here two fall recommendations, 11/22/63. So obviously November is fall, so read this in the fall. Maybe even do, like, some people start on like the beginning of November to read it all by 11/22/63. Not the 63 part, just 11/22. So this has time travel where we have an English teacher who goes back in time to prevent the JFK assassination. He needs to do some tests to see if the time travel works because he's pushed back past 63 years before that. So instead of wasting years of his own life to try and see if this one thing will actually help, he does some tests to see if that works. He doesn't feel at home in his current timeline, in the regular timeline.
Interesting.
And so he might find some like connections, things like that back in the past. And it's got a lot of like historical fiction elements. It's got time travel. It's got connections to other Stephen King books. It's really, really good and has such a solid ending. It is fantastic. It is probably my favorite King book, or tied with the next one. I highly recommend this. Even if you don't like horror, even if you don't necessarily think that you might like Stephen King, this book, even though it's super long, is so worth it, and it's so unbelievably good. So check this out, maybe in November. And then staying on Stephen King, we have Pet Sematary, perfect for October. We've got people who move into a town, and there is a cemetery that people bury their pets in.
Weird.
This is the book that Stephen King has said that maybe he shouldn't have written, because in his own personal opinion, in certain ways, it's his scariest. And I would recommend not reading the introduction until after, because if you read the introduction, you can kind of, I read the introduction and kind of piece together a little bit of where we were going. And so I recommend skipping that. And I can absolutely see why he would say that, why it would affect him so much to have written this. And this is another one, phenomenal ending. This, I can't wait for you to read this so we can talk about the ending of this one. Like, even more so, I think, than 11/22/63. I don't know which one I have as my favorite, just because so many moments from this I remember vividly too. Same with this one. I do remember a lot of moments from this as well, but this just has, like, it has such an ending. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. Moving on. What do you have next for us here?
Continuing in the vein of horror, I've read a few horror books. I've been exposed to more horror than I think I have. But anyway, this one I read this summer, and I love it. New favorite author, just like instantly, basically. New favorite book, pretty much. This book was so immersive, and all of the elements that went into the world building of this book, I loved. And it is The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig. This is just such a good story. When I tell you, world building is like one of my top things. She can't shut up about prose. I can't shut up about world building, okay? And this one, what he creates, where we find ourselves, what we are in for the majority of the book, is so good. It's so good. I love it. So this story, we're following a group of friends as adults who traumatic experience happened when they were children. They found a staircase in the woods as kids, and one of their friends went up and vanished. And none of them went after him. None of them knows what happened. None of them knows anything about the friend. And so, years later, they're adults now, they find another staircase in the woods. And they believe, and this time, they go up, and they find out what there is to find out. And so, where we end up, and what we experience, oh my gosh, it's so good. I read this so fast. I ate it up. I also spiraled a bit when I read it, not gonna lie, which is very parallel to some experiences in here in the book. So it was, for me, it was a very immersive experience. But I love his writing style. I love his storytelling. I love his world. I love the weird, wacky ideas he comes up with. So
he puts himself in the book.
He does. What do you mean?
He puts his beliefs, he puts his obsessions, he puts every piece of him goes into his books.
It sure does. This is true. So yeah, this just, such a good experience of a read. And then in that weird, wacky, maybe uncomfortable genre, we have Someone You Can Build a Nest In, which doesn't that sound weird? This is actually very cozy, which is so weird, but it's so true. It's cozy, it's horror, it's romance, it's comedy. I think those are the four genres. I would agree with those statements. Do we want to say more than that? I think the cover describes it really well, because it like almost looks Disney-ish, but creepy. Dark Disney. And you've got a wriggly creature that you learn to love. It's true. Yeah, that's basically. She just wants to eat people, you know. Yep. She just wants to live in peace and just gnaw on the bones. Eat people. Yep. And that's them's true facts. And it's got such heart. Everything packed into like this little book is just. We will absolutely perfect. Like, he is also one of the authors that we are keeping an eye on. We will be reading his next book. I think it comes out in 2026. So yeah, Nice. Yeah, just such a good time.
Oh, and it's got fantasy elements too.
Definitely, yeah, it's in a fantasy world. Yep. All right, what are your next two?
Well, you mentioned Chuck Wendig, so let's go with
Yes.
Black River Orchard. Fall apples, obviously. We've got cultish elements. We've got really good dynamics between characters. We've got communication as an important element. This is set in a town where there's a specific apple that starts to affect people, and you eat the apple and things change. It is definitely in the horror genre. It definitely has very creepy and very gross sections in it, but it's not too much to where it's like over the top or gratuitous or anything like that. It's also just got a lot to say. So same with the other one. Chuck Wendig puts his whole person in these books. It's even set in fall, so definitely a good fall read. And then this has nothing to do with the last one because, like I said, I did not do categories. But we have the Dresden Files. If anything is going to be a fall read, this is it. It has every Halloweenish creature you can think of.
Yes.
It's got mystery. It's got noir. It's got a wizard detective in Chicago who's solving, in at least the first few books, he's solving like case of the week, which feels just so fall. And like you could read this with like a coffee. It's got angels. It's got ghosts. It's got vampires. It's got every spooky creature you could think of with a character who has his flaws. No one's arguing that. He has his flaws, but he also has, deep in his core, he has such a good heart and such a care for humanity and people in general, and other creatures. He also cares about other creatures. It's got fairies. It's got so many different elements that are just magical.
You're making me think of Halloween Town.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. So yes, it's delightful.
All right, my last two are a little different from the rest that I just listed. They're not really that dark, but they do have some cozy fall vibes. This first one,
Really, you've got variety for the people.
yeah. So this first one feels fallish because it has witches, and it is The Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli. I think that's how you say her name. So this is for book one in the Crimson Moth duology, and I love this story so much. It's fantasy romance. We're following a witch and a witch hunter, very much enemies to lovers here, who true enemies, actually, not just the kind where they like pretend to be, but no, true enemies where they are out for each other's blood because only one of them can survive in the world that we currently are in. And so to see these two characters develop on their own and the journeys they're going through and how they end up coming together and their whole journey, it's just gorgeous and I love it. And it's such a good cozy fall read. So I highly recommend this one if you're looking for a little bit of romance in your fall reads. And then my next and last fall book recommendation, also fantasy romance, is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This one, oh my gosh, also book one in a duology, in the Shepherd King duology. This one we have some really neat dark elements. We have magic. We have a dark creature kind of monster living inside someone's head, and we have a very unique magic system. We have multiple characters whose journeys we get to watch, and we get to see how everything weaves together and unfolds and all the beautiful things.
This is another one that's like has a lot of atmosphere as well.
It
right?
does. It is very moody. It has. It's very much got a bit of like that gothic, that dark atmosphere to it. So it feels really good on like a dark fall day, especially if it's rainy and cloudy, which it would be if it's dark. But anyway, yeah. As the days get shorter and the nights get longer, this is definitely a good book to cozy up with.
Sweet. And then I have two more vampire books.
Naturally.
A Dowry of Blood. So this is Dracula retold from one of his bride's perspectives.
Even loneliness, hollow and cold, becomes so familiar it starts to feel like a friend. Oh, yeah. It's gorgeous.
So good.
It's a really pretty
I'm having memories just flood through my brain of this book. It is so good. This is Dracula retold from the perspective of one of his wives, and really, like literally chapter 1, you find out that she killed him. So she murdered him, and you get to find out why. So it goes back to that mystery element it's been solved. You already know why.
Yeah.
You got to know the how. And so it's so good. It's so powerful. It's got lots of atmosphere. It's got gorgeous writing. It's got characters that you fall in love with. It's got so many quotes that you could highlight and keep forever. It is just truly, truly excellent. If you want like a different perspective into vampires and into Dracula's story, I think this is a really, really excellent one. The back quote says, "I was so happy to be your marionette at first, so happy to be chosen. It was never my intention to murder you, not in the beginning anyway." And that comes in chapter 1. And so she's got vengeance dripping in the pages. She goes through everything that he's done to her, everything that's happened to her, how her life has gone living with him in the situation that he's put them in, the situation that she's watched him put other people in. And so it's so good. It's got so many good discussions. It is truly, truly excellent. And if you love vampires and you haven't read this one, please, please, please check it out. Last one, it's also a vampire book, Empire of the Vampire. This is way more on the fun side for me. It definitely still has deeper elements too, but it's so fun to watch this character. It's got a lot of sad and horrible things that happen. In fact, it's got one of the most memorable sad chapters that I've read. I will not forget that chapter. I will not forget the name of that chapter, okay? Yeah, I can't wait for you to be traumatized with me. But it also has something I love about Jay Kristoff is his style. All of his books are just, we've said dripping so many times in this episode, but it's dripping with style, okay? It's got, gothic isn't the right word because usually that's more descriptive towards like houses and like that moodiness, but it has like a moodiness, but it has an adventure. So it's fantasy horror. It's got a great adventure. It's got some of the best relationship dynamics in my opinion. And within those dynamics, they're done very well. So hard to say that without giving anything away, but it's got excellent dynamics in that sense. It's set in a world where it's the Empire of the Vampire. Vampires are the rulers of the world, and we're following someone who is fighting against them. And it's really interesting to see his backstory. We've got multiple timelines. It's a frame narrative where he's telling his story from basically like a prison cell. And he's telling, we've got that timeline, then we've got his adulthood timeline, and we've got his childhood timeline, and they all converge in such a fantastic way. And book 3 comes out in November, so you have a chance, if you haven't read this, to read all 3 of them this year and this fall. Good luck.
It's my goal for those books.
It is.
Wish me luck. All right. Well, that is 10 books from each of us that we recommend for reading this fall.
Let us know if you guys are picking up any of these, or make sure you shout out your fall recommendations in the comments.
And if you're not feeling chatty, leave us some fall leaves.
We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye, besties.